She had it all, except the one thing she didn't know she needed. Until her family decided for her. Madison Carter's mornings always started the same way: black coffee, downtown view, and silence. At 32, she was exactly where she thought she'd be. Manager of operations at Henderson and Wells, a firm with prestige and glass walls overlooking Chicago's skyline. Her name etched on the frosted office door. No husband, no kids, no regrets, or so she told herself. Her sisters, Brittany and Lauren, had taken different paths. Wedding photos, baby showers, school pickups. Madison's life, by comparison, was all boardrooms and quarterly reports. And while she never said it out loud, there were nights she'd stare out the window and ask herself the same quiet question. Did I choose the life I wanted, or the one that hurt less? She was the one who showed up, always. The one who sent flowers, who remembered birthdays, who loaned money without expecting it back. The reliable one. But lately, reliable was starting to feel a lot like used. That Tuesday morning, as Madison sorted through a stack of vendor contracts, her phone lit up. Brittany's name. She hesitated. It wasn't just a call, it was a prelude. Something always came after, "Hey, Maddie," and this time it wouldn't just be about money. It would be about what she owed them, simply for not having her own family. And it would change everything. When family calls, she always answers. But this time, the price would be more than just money. Tuesday, 9:17 a.m. The phone buzzed across Madison's desk right as she was sipping her second cup of coffee and flipping through quarterly logistics reports. The name on the screen made her pause. Brittany, little sis. Madison tapped the green button and leaned back. "Hey, Britt, everything okay?" Brittany's voice chirped through, bright as ever. "Mads, Sue, guess what? Mom's turning 60 in 2 months." Madison smiled. "Yeah, I know. I marked it on my calendar. What's the plan?" There was a beat of hesitation, just long enough for Madison to sense a request coming. "We're planning something super special," Brittany said, dragging out the word like it would make it sound cheaper. Like, all out amazing. We want to surprise her. Big time. But we'll need everyone to pitch in. Here it comes, Madison thought, already opening her banking app. "How much?" Brittany named the figure. Madison blinked. "That's more than my last vacation." "I know," Brittany rushed, "but she deserves it, right?" Madison didn't argue. "Yeah, she does. Sending it now." She hit confirm and waited for the usual thank you. Instead, Brittany added, too casually, "Also, make sure you take that whole week off. No meetings, no deadlines. Trust me, you'll need the time." Madison frowned slightly. "Okay, sure. What exactly are we planning?" "Oh, nothing's locked down yet." Brittany lied with the ease of someone who'd rehearsed it. "We'll loop you in later. Just keep that week free, okay?" And with that, the call ended. Madison stared at her phone, a faint unease building in her chest. She had just wired $2,500 without blinking, but somehow, that wasn't the real cost. When someone says, "Don't worry about the details," that's exactly when you should. Madison stared at her phone long after the call ended. The number Brittany had thrown out was high, but manageable. The money wasn't what bothered her. It was that last line, "Just keep the week open." No explanations, no itinerary, not even a "trust me." She'd worked in corporate long enough to know, when someone refuses to share details, it usually means you're not going to like them. Back at her desk, she tried to focus, emails, contracts, meeting invites, but her mind kept circling back. Was this a spa retreat? A surprise cruise? A getaway in Napa? But something in Brittany's tone didn't feel like celebration. It felt strategic. Madison opened her calendar. She stared at the second week of March, the week Brittany said to keep free. She hovered over a major client meeting, her biggest pitch of Q1, and clicked reschedule. She didn't know what was coming, but if experience had taught her anything, it was this. When your family gets vague, it's never just a vacation. Family dinners are supposed to bring people together until they drop a bomb that leaves you speechless. The roast chicken was still steaming. The table was full, laughing, clinking glasses, passing bowls of mashed potatoes like nothing in the world could go wrong. Madison sat between her dad and Aunt Kim, half listening to Dad retell the story about how he once fell off a ski lift in college, his favorite anecdote for winter dinners. Then, with surgical timing, Brittany struck. "So," she said, swirling her wine, "we finally locked in Mom's birthday plans." Everyone looked up. Madison smiled, expecting a nice restaurant or maybe a surprise party. "We're spending the whole week at Aspen Ridge Lodge." The table erupted. Lauren squealed. Dad started talking about ski passes. Mom's eyes lit up like a Christmas tree. Madison blinked. Aspen Ridge? No one had said anything, not one word. She forced a smile. "Wait, when did this happen?" "Oh, it's been in the works for a few weeks," Lauren said, brushing it off. "We just finalized it yesterday." Madison tried to keep her voice steady. "So, we're all going skiing?" The table went quiet. Too quiet. Mom cleared her throat. "Actually, honey, we were hoping you could help us with something instead." That's when her stomach dropped. She thought she was part of the celebration until she realized she was the unpaid staff. Madison felt her fork freeze midair. "Help us with what?" she asked, already fearing the answer. Mom glanced at Brittany, then back at Madison with that too sweet tone reserved for when she was about to ask something completely unreasonable. "Well, since everyone will be out skiing during the day, we thought you could stay back and watch the kids." Madison blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" Lauren chimed in, cheerful as ever. "It just makes the most sense, Mads. You're amazing with the kids, and honestly, we've already booked ski passes and classes." "5 kids," Madison said flatly. "You want me to babysit 5 kids, alone for a week?" "Well, they love their Aunt Maddie," Mom offered like it was a compliment, not a request for unpaid labor. Madison looked around the table. No one laughed. No one flinched. This wasn't a joke. This was the plan. The plan no one had bothered to tell her about. And suddenly, she wasn't at a family dinner anymore. She was sitting in a room full of people who had made a decision for her and didn't even think they needed to ask. They called it logical. She heard it for what it was, dismissal dressed as love. Madison's heart thudded once, hard and sharp. "You're serious?" she said, scanning the table again. "You're really expecting me to stay back? Just because I don't have kids?" Brittany shrugged like it was common sense. "Well, yeah. I mean, you don't need a break from family life, right? You are the family life." Lauren laughed, sipping her wine. "Exactly. Honestly, Maddie, it's kind of perfect. You're the fun aunt, you've got the patience, and let's face it, this trip would probably bore you anyway." Madison's mouth went dry. "Why would it bore me?" Lauren didn't even look up. "Come on. Skiing? Crowded lodges? Kids screaming? You like peace and order, this way everybody wins." And there it was, the ugly truth. Her singlehood, her independence, her peace turned against her. To them, she wasn't Madison the successful woman, the loyal sister, the daughter who always showed up. She was just available, expendable, convenient, and no one at that table, not even Mom, thought there was anything wrong with that. She didn't raise her voice. She just stood, and that silence screamed louder than anything she could have said. For a moment, Madison said nothing. The table went on like she wasn't even there. Plans about ski gear, room assignments, which slopes were best for beginners. They had already moved on, like the decision had been unanimous. But inside Madison, something cracked. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was the quiet, clean break of something that had held on too long. She set her napkin down, pushed her chair back, and stood. Someone, maybe Aunt Kim, paused mid-sentence, but no one stopped her. No one said her name. She walked past the kitchen, past the hallway mirror where, as kids, she and her sisters used to braid each other's hair and laugh until midnight. She picked up her coat from the hook, grabbed her purse, and walked out. No slammed doors, no last words, just the sound of her heels on the tile floor and a silence thick enough to choke on. Behind her, the conversation picked right back up, and from somewhere in the dining room, she heard her mother's voice float out casually. "Don't worry, she'll be upset tonight, but she'll come around. She always does." But this time, they were wrong. It wasn't just tonight that broke her. It was a lifetime of quiet yeses no one ever bothered to thank. The cold air outside hit Madison like truth, sharp, clean, undeniable. She didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, she drove home in silence, hands gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary, jaw clenched so hard it ached. But the real noise wasn't outside. It was inside her head. It came in flashes, like film reels rewinding through her memory. Age 16. Skipping prom dress shopping to cook dinner for her sisters while Mom worked overtime. Age 18. Turning down a spring break trip to babysit Brittany so her parents could have a weekend away. Age 21, working 2 jobs in college just to help pay for Lauren's car repairs. No one had asked. No one had said, "Are you okay with this?" It was always just assumed, because Madison handled things, because Madison didn't complain, because Madison didn't have kids, didn't have a husband, didn't have a reason to say no. She was the family's safety net, until one day she wasn't. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't sure she wanted to be anymore. She didn't yell. She offered a solution, but the answer revealed more than she was ready to hear. The next morning, Madison did what she always did when things felt wrong. She tried to fix them. At exactly 8:04 a.m., she called her mom. "Hey, Mom," she said gently, "I've been thinking about the resort trip. I'd really love to be part of the celebration." A pause. "I was thinking, what if I hired a professional sitter? Someone licensed, experienced, with great references. That way, the kids are safe, and I can be with everyone too." Silence. Then her mother's voice came through, sharp and thin. "That won't work, Madison." Madison blinked. "Why not? We can't leave our children with a stranger." "She wouldn't be a stranger, Mom. She'd be vetted, professional." "They're used to you," her mom cut in. "You're calm. They trust you. Besides, this kind of thing isn't really your scene anyway." Madison's heart dropped. "What do you mean?" "You're not exactly the social butterfly," her mom said, almost laughing. "You don't like crowds. You'd be more comfortable with the kids." The line went quiet. Then came the final blow. A cold, clean click. Her mother had hung up. Not a goodbye. Not even a thank you. Just click. She said no for the first time. And suddenly, the family who always needed her turned on her. Madison had barely set her phone down when it rang again. Brittany. She hesitated, then answered. "What the hell, Madison?" her sister hissed before she could say a word. "Mom just told me about your little babysitter idea." "Are you serious right now?" Madison kept her voice calm. "I'm trying to find a solution that works for everyone." "No, you're trying to ruin everything. The trip is planned. Everything is set, and now, because you don't feel like helping, you're just going to throw a wrench in it?" "I'm not refusing to help. I just think, you always do this. You act like you're some martyr, like we take advantage of you." Madison's heart pounded. "I never said that." "You didn't have to." Click. A second later, the text started. From Lauren. "Seriously? You're bailing?" From Aunt Kim. "This was for your mom." "Selfish much?" From her cousin. "Wow, didn't think you'd be the drama queen." Message after message. Blame after blame. No one asked why. No one asked how she felt. They weren't disappointed she couldn't help. They were furious she dared to say no. They didn't just expect her help. They built their entire plan on it, without ever asking if she was okay with it. It hit Madison all at once. Not like a punch, but like cold water slowly rising around her until she couldn't breathe. They hadn't asked. They hadn't invited. They hadn't even included her in the planning. They had simply decided that she'd fund it, that she'd take time off, that she'd babysit her time, her money, her vacation. Not once did anyone say, "Is that okay with you, Madison?" Because to them, she was a resource, not a sister, not a daughter, not a person with a life of her own. Just a name on a calendar, a wallet on standby, a babysitter in a nice blazer. And now that she was pushing back, they weren't just upset. They were offended, because she had the nerve to ask for basic respect. They expected her to stay home and play the role. Instead, she booked a one-way ticket to freedom. Madison closed her laptop and stared at the wall for a long minute. No more calls, no more guilt, no more wondering if she was overreacting. She opened her browser again, this time not for work, not for them. She typed in 3 words, Key West flights. The photos hit her like sunlight, turquoise water, palm trees, open skies. It felt like another planet. Within 10 minutes, she'd booked the whole thing. First-class seat. A small boutique hotel just off Duval Street. A balcony with an ocean view. And most importantly, no one would need her there. She didn't even tell anyone. Not out of spite, but because she didn't owe anyone an explanation anymore. For the first time in years, Madison didn't feel like a daughter or a sister or a backup plan. She felt like herself, and that was enough. While she walked barefoot on a Florida beach, her phone back home was catching fire. The Florida sun hit Madison's skin like a kiss she didn't know she needed. She'd spent the day doing absolutely nothing. A morning swim, A good book, a frozen drink, no schedule, no expectations. She even laughed at the idea. Somewhere in the Midwest, her family probably thought she was grocery shopping for 5 kids. Then came the moment she'd been avoiding. She turned her phone back on. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The screen lit up like a slot machine gone mad. 21 missed calls from Brittany, 17 texts from Mom, dozens of group messages. Where are you? Madison, this isn't funny. The kids are getting restless. She could picture it clearly, her family outside her empty house, kids in tow, ski gear packed, frustration boiling over. And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel guilty. She felt free. She thought the silence was over, but the real storm hadn't even started yet. Madison had just finished unpacking when the pounding started. Thump, thump, thump. Not a knock, an invasion. She froze. Then remembered the spare key, the one she'd handed Mom years ago, with a smile and a just in case. Before she could reach the door, it clicked open. There they were. Mom, Brittany, Lauren, faces flushed, eyes wild, voices already rising. You ruined everything, Brittany screamed, stepping in like she owned the place. We had to cancel the plans, Madison, Lauren cried, tears of frustration already brimming. Mom's voice landed last, low and sharp. How could you do this to your own family? They didn't sit, didn't breathe. They moved through her space like she didn't live there, like she didn't matter. Demanding, accusing, as if love was a debt, as if showing up for herself meant she'd betrayed them. Madison stood still. She didn't flinch. She didn't explain. She didn't apologize, because for the first time in her life, she wasn't sorry. She didn't cry. She laughed, and that was what scared them most. The room went quiet, not because the shouting stopped, but because Madison did something no one expected. She laughed. Not a soft chuckle. A sharp, stunned, almost breathless laugh. The kind that comes when you finally stop pretending something makes sense. They froze. Mom's face twisted. What exactly is so funny, Madison? Madison wiped a tear from the corner of her eye. A tear from laughing, not pain. What's funny? She echoed. The fact that all of you really thought this was normal. That you could build an entire vacation around me taking care of your kids without even asking. Brittany opened her mouth to argue, but Madison raised a hand. No. Let me say this. She looked at each of them. You don't want me. You never did. You wanted free labor, a backup, a plan B in a nice apartment who'd smile, nod, and sacrifice her time, her peace, her damn vacation, just so you wouldn't have to. And then, she smiled. Newsflash, I'm not that person anymore. She didn't slam the door, she just walked away, and that silence said everything. For a second, no one moved. Mom's words still hung in the air like smoke. Then I don't have a daughter named Madison. The kind of sentence that was supposed to break her. But Madison didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She didn't even raise her voice. She simply said, if that's how you feel, Mom, I accept that. Brittany gasped. Lauren looked stunned. But Madison, she felt light. The kind of lightness that only comes when you finally set down a weight you've been carrying so long, you forgot what it was like to breathe without it. Her family stood frozen, waiting for her to take it back. She didn't. Instead, she opened the door wide. You can let yourselves out. No screaming, no drama, just peace. The kind that follows a clean, honest goodbye. They kept posting, but she'd already logged out of the version of herself they wanted to control. 6 weeks later, the silence was still holding. Not a single call, not one apology, just passive-aggressive posts sprinkled across social media like emotional landmines. Some people only think about themselves. Mom. Family should always come first. Brittany, captioning a photo of her daughter. Toxic people break family bonds. Lauren, not tagging her, but tagging the message loud and clear. The old Madison would have spiraled, losing sleep, rewriting replies in her head, wondering if maybe, just maybe, they were right. But this Madison, she scrolled, she blinked, she moved on. Because peace, it turns out, is quieter than approval, and it doesn't require permission. She used to rearrange her life for everyone else. Now she's finally living one she doesn't want to escape from. Saturday morning. No alarms, no diaper bags, no emergency texts. Madison slipped into a cozy sweater and walked 3 blocks to the corner cafe, where the new book club was meeting. She didn't know anyone, and that was the point. A circle of strangers welcomed her with warm smiles and dog-eared novels. For the first time in a long time, no one looked at her expecting something. No one needed her to fix, solve, babysit, or save. She just had to show up and breathe. That afternoon, she booked it. A 2-week solo trip to Italy and southern France, departing in spring. She didn't check anyone's calendar, didn't ask if the timing worked. She just clicked confirm. And that night, as she sat by the window with her tea and a stack of travel books, Madison finally felt it. Her life. On her terms. And no one else's. She had shut the door, but she hadn't thrown away the key. In the top drawer of her nightstand, tucked under old postcards and a lavender-scented candle, sat the emergency key. The same one Mom used when she barged in. The same one Madison should have mailed back weeks ago. Every few days, she would take it out, hold it, turn it in her palm, and always put it back. Not because she was waiting for an apology, but because, somewhere, in the quiet part of her heart, she still hoped. Not for things to go back to the way they were, but that maybe one day they'd finally see her. Not as the babysitter, not as the backup, but as a person worth choosing. And until then, she would keep the key. Not for them, for herself. Because holding on wasn't the same as giving in. And letting go didn't mean she stopped caring. She wasn't walking away from her family. She was walking toward herself, for the first time in her life. There was a time Madison would have done anything to keep the peace, swallowed her words, said yes when she meant no, put herself last, and smiled while doing it. But not anymore, because now she understood the difference. This wasn't selfish. This was self-respect. And self-respect meant setting boundaries. It meant letting people be disappointed in you, if that's what it took to stop being disappointed in yourself. It meant knowing when to love from a distance. And so, Madison didn't slam the door. She didn't burn the bridge. She simply stopped standing in the fire. She chose herself. And for the first time in forever, that was enough.